Welcome to the second election of American history. It occurred in 1792 from November 2nd up to December 5th of that year. This was Washington's re-election bid, and he had no opposition to him, but this cannot be said for the vice presidency. The two factions, no parties, were the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans. The Federalists, led mainly by Secretary of Treasury Alexander Hamilton, believed in a big, powerful central government and support the Constitution. The Democrat Republicans, led by Secretary of State Thomas Jefferson and Virginia Representative James Madison, believed in a small government and states' rights. Both Federalists and Anti-Federalists, now named the Democratic Republicans, wanted Washington to run again to help with stability, and they also held fear after hearing about the chaos of the French Revolution. Everyone forced Washington to run again to keep the nation stabilized, even though he really wanted to retire and go back to his family and farm. During Washington's 3 years in office, from 1789 to 1792, a lot happened. He had created and appointed the presidential cabinet. He also appointed all 6 positions of the entire Supreme Court throughout his term, and made John Jay the first Chief of Justice of American history. The Bill of Rights, aka the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, was ratified on December 15, 1791. After compromises between both parties. Lastly, the construction of the White House began in early 1792, with Washington overlooking and making it his own responsibility that everything went well. Before the 1792 election, the Federalists held the presidency, Senate, and the House, with Speaker Jonathan Trumbull Jr. taking the role after Muhlenberg switched and defected to the Democratic Republicans. Also, don't get him confused with his brother John Trumbull, nicknamed the Painter of the Revolution. Now, for the 1792 election, all electors casted 2 votes for 2 different candidates back then. The nominee with the most votes won the presidency, and the nominee with the second most votes became vice president. Washington had no opposition at all, but the vice president's race was a toss-up between current VP John Adams and Democrat-Republican George Clinton, governor from New York. But after Clinton barely won his governor re-election bid months prior, only winning by 108 votes against John Jay, his reputation and momentum to try to become VP was severely hurt. The Democratic Republicans would have loved to have ran Thomas Jefferson in 1792, their rising star, but it was impossible since they would have had to lose Virginia, since electors could not vote for 2 candidates from their home state. And Washington was also from this state, so they ran Clinton. And the winner was George Washington, won of course, and stayed as the first president in American history, winning 132 out of 132 electoral votes, again in a landslide. While in second place, John Adams won with 77 electoral votes and stayed as the vice president. While defeated, George Clinton came in third, still lost, but got 50 electoral votes. Thomas Jefferson, even though telling everyone to vote for George Clinton, he still got 4 electoral votes. Lastly, Senator Aaron Burr, enemy of Alexander Hamilton, got 1 electoral vote. For the Senate, the Federalists won, winning 16 out of the 30 seats. They barely won the majority, 16 being the minimum. Also, don't forget, these senators were selected by the state legislatures and not truly by the people until the 17th Amendment in 1914. For the House, which has been directly elected by the voters since 1789, the Democratic Republicans for the first time won control with 55 seats. And Frederick Muhlenberg became the Speaker of the House once again, but this time with the Democratic Republicans, after taking the role away from then former second Speaker Jonathan Trumbull Jr. And Washington took his second oath of office on Monday, March 4th, 1793, in the Senate Chamber of Congress in Philadelphia. This made Washington the sole president to have his first and second inauguration to be held in different cities. At last, Washington won his re-election bid, and the second election in American history came to an end. Like and subscribe. Stay tuned for the next video.